I saw Paul Oakenfold last night, so I got inspired. I'm a DJ now. I gotta turn a knob or two. No, not. He was really good. You guys have fun with the concert last night? Was that good? Awesome. All right. Well, cool. Hello, Derbycon! You guys having a good time so far? Can you guys believe 7 years? Raise your hand if you've been here all 7 years. Oof, that's a long time. I've been here 7 years too. So I started when I was 1. But for those that don't know, my name is Ben 10. I'm a senior security consultant with TrustedSec. It's a little known company. It's up and coming. The CEO, some people may or may not have heard of him. But I'm a senior security consultant with them. Ben 0XA, it's hexadecimal. It's not Benoxa. Someone actually came up and you're like, you're Benoxa! Ben 10. I look young, but I'm not. I'm actually really close to 40. So, yeah, right. So that makes a problem though, because, if I have to deal with local law enforcement, it's usually in the middle of the day. And so I called him because there was like something going on, and the cop rolled up, he rolled his windows down. I'm expecting you to be like, hey, what's the problem? No. The first thing he said, shouldn't you be in school? I'm like, I'm the one that called you. He's like, yeah, sure. So, and then we go to like the local high school games and they charge me the student prices. That I don't complain about, so that's fine. But I did 13 years in defense. The last 3 years I've done offense. I'm a developer. I've written lots of programs, just about every language, including COBOL, MVS, JCL, you name it. There's a lot of different languages out there. I do a lot of speaking and training, and I've been speaking at Derbycon for the past 6 years now. So I started with Derbycon 2. First talk was on user education. So I love the fact that you guys like what I have to say, and I like the fact that I get to come back every year, share a lot of my experiences, and kind of go from there. I'm also a runner. I love running. One, it's not a contact sport because football, I'll die. Basketball ain't happening. Golf, I'm horrible at. I don't know if it's because I'm not tall enough to get a good enough swing or whatever the case may be, but I can't do golf. And then, softball and baseball, the height really shouldn't be a problem. The thing about it is I don't have good eye-hand coordination. So my wife, we go on this co-ed team, and she's like catching the ball and like rolling and throwing all this stuff, and I'm out there and I get one pop-up fly and I go like this and it goes, boop, right in my face. Cut my lip, everything else like that. And then I went back to the next year and the same exact thing happened, so I was like, I'm just gonna write the scoreboard. So, every year, except for last year, unfortunately, I do a Derbycon contest. And this contest is basically just Photoshop. It's a way to actually get a free ticket to come to Derbycon. So, last year they sold out so fast and it was so crazy, I wasn't able to get a ticket. This year, Derbycon actually sponsored the contest. So give it up for Derbycon, man. They actually paid and gave the ticket away. So it's a lot of fun, right? So it comes to a certain point when you just have to own how you look, right? Don't body shame somebody, right? Just own it. And it's funny as hell, right? So, like, I'm perfectly okay with everyone making the short jokes, and someone came up to me, like, are you really okay with that? I'm like, dude, I go back to my room and I cry, but I'm alright. Alright? Well, before we get into that, I do have one more contest here. This is Firestone and Robertson's TX Bourbon. Now, this was just uncasked in December. In Texas, we can only get it, and we can only get 2 bottles a month. Okay? So this is made with Texas-grown corn, Texas barley, and Texas wheat, and as far as they know, it's the only bourbon where they actually went out and captured a yeast strand off of a pecan shell and cultured their own yeast. That hasn't been done since Jim Beam passed a prohibition. Okay? So this is good stuff. So I have a trivia thing coming up in a little bit, and the first person gets it right, you get the bottle. Okay? And this is signed by me, and then there is a bottle up for sale for Hackers for Charity, and I've got like 25 different signatures from like Dave Kennedy, Paul Asadorian, like everyone that's on there. So something to be watching out for. But for the contest, so the contest was Photoshop me into something with tech, kind of do, even if you can do like current events, and if you can make me look like I'm a little kid, which doesn't take a lot of Photoshop editing, you know, you can win a free ticket. So these are some of them. PowerShell by Ben 10. An upcoming fight. Like I would have any chance. This may be disturbing for some of you, because it was for me. That was you? Motherfucker. My son walked into the room the moment that thing popped up, and he's like, what are you looking at? I'm like, nothing! It's porn! Trust me, it's porn! There's that one. Yeah, Dave Kennedy liked that one. That was just mean. Then they started getting Dave Kennedy into it, which I'm not Dave Kennedy's son, so I don't know like where this came in, but yeah. I'm just glad they put Dave on Angelina Jolie's picture and not me. Game of Thrones. They said I was part of the Lannister family. The What Me Worry. This actually looks like a cool picture. Little army of Ben 10s. Here I am once again as a baby. I mean, I don't even know what's going on in this picture. Not sure I feel comfortable. Sad Elmo. I think I'm doing hair. I don't know. Malware, key research. I married a Fed at DEF CON. I'm assuming this is just a skull logo. So a lot of these were really fun, whatever the case may be, but I have to say, the one that came in was by far the best I've seen, and it was really well done. The photoshopping was really good, and it hit all of the categories I said of current events, hacking, and everything else like that. So this was the winner. Is that not amazing? I mean, seriously, is that not amazing? So that's my background on my home computer now. So that was by Walter Legowski. Are you in the room? Did you make it in my talk? Where are you? Hey, you stand up and everyone give this guy a round of applause. Really a great job. You're an asshole. So I want to talk a little bit about something. So you guys might have heard about this guy by the name of Frank William Abagnale Jr., right? So one of the things about him is that, you know, he was big on, you know, tricking people. So he was big on getting someone's confidence to trick. You guys watch that show like Mind Games on Netflix and stuff to that effect? You look at how you can actually manipulate people by what you say and what you do. Now, Chris Hadagny and the Social Engineering Village, that's exactly what they do. But there's also subtleties to certain things that you can do. I just won $100 earlier. Did you see that? That was great. You know, so confidence tricking. But one of the big things was he was doing a check forging. So he was basically forging checks, getting money, that type of stuff, but he was also an imposter. He impersonated other people. He said he had no fewer than 8 different people that he impersonated. An airline pilot. Y'all, a lot of y'all flew today. How would you like me to impersonate your pilot? This is your captain speaking. We are going to be flying at an altitude of 36,000 feet. We can get up in the air just fine. I've never landed this thing, so we're going to YOLO as fuck. Enjoy your flight. Right? A physician. Now what we're going to do is we're going to saw off the top of your head. We'll take a stick and jiggle around in there and see if we get that dog darn clot. You know, a U.S. Bureau of Prisons agent. And a lawyer. He escaped police custody 2 separate times. I didn't realize this when I got the picture, but that's actually Louisville police. What the fuck, Louisville? Damn, it was not intentional. But he also escaped while a plane was taxiing on the runway. He escaped. So obviously he did some crime, whatever, cut a deal, and now he has his own, successful business, works with FBI National Academy, whatever. So you guys may have heard this because there was a movie that was done with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio that kind of highlighted a lot of this stuff. And I want to show you a scene which I really appreciated because in school, I was always a kid that was picked on. And had I known this, I could have tried this. The problem is I was too short to look like a teacher.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes?
Do you know where room 17 French is?
Yeah.
They just put me in the locker.
You freaking killed him, dude. You selling encyclopedias?
Yeah, it looks like a substitute teacher.
Go, find out. Take a seat.
I don't want you to keep doing
Here you go.
Quiet down, people! My name is Mr. Abagnale. That's Abagnale, not Abagnale.
Oop. Sorry, I wanted to pause it there. Did you guys see the look on his face? Like, oh shit. I just locker checked a teacher. Although if I locker check a teacher and he didn't do anything, I'm like, I'm doing it again. So, it's cool, right? So, cool story. Frank Abagnale, we've heard all of this. What does this have to do with hacking, right? Slow your roll. Hold on. I'm getting there. What about these people? So this guy by the name of Chris Barton wrote a book of Can I See Your ID? And he actually highlights several other people that do the same thing. You guys ever heard of Karan Thomas? Or Private Wakeman? Or Solomon Perel? Well, Karan Thomas loved the subway system so much that he actually went out and operated a train for 3 hours because the driver left the door open. He ran and did the stops appropriately. He did his job. Private Wakeman. It was actually Sarah Rosetta Wakeman, and she served as a woman in the Union Army during the American Civil War. She went under the male name of Lyons Wakeman. She actually saw combat. Did anyone, some of the things you probably never even heard about. What about Solomon Perel? He was a German Jewish, born to a German Jewish family, but he actually impersonated a German officer and was hidden to prevent from being captured and tortured. They impersonated these people. Sorry, there's no way I'm going to finish that. I'll finish it later. Whew! That's nasty. It's spicy. So you're like, okay, still waiting. Chill. Alright? There's a reason I'm talking about these people. So the big question here is, why were they successful? Why was Frank Abagnale so successful in what he did? We have controls around that in place, right? Even back then, they should have had ways of identifying the fact that the guy wasn't a pilot or a physician. There should have been ways that we should have done it. Why were they so successful? Exactly. And the thing about it is that they blended in. They weren't a noisy chainsaw in a room. They blended in. One of my favorite activities to do is when I travel is to try and blend in behind people. Being short, it's super easy. Plus, they think that the person in front of me is my parent, and then they don't stop me when I try and get into board with first class. Like dad. My dad. Dad! They let me on. So, but when you blend in, a lot of times you get attackers who try and blend in, and it looks a lot like this.
Time to feed my babies. I think they're scared of me. They've never seen this man. I did not, that was not my intentions, but that was funny as hell.
Right? So that's the problem, is we try and blend in that way. And then we build up our defenses against that type of attack. But this is a crux to what I'm talking about today. Everyone's defenses are being designed around disclosures instead of discovery. So think about that. Look at your defense. Look at what's happening at your organization, and you look at the defense, you look at the tools, you look at the way that you put things in place, and I guarantee you it's mostly around disclosures than it is around discovery. And I have one slide that I'll tell you, and it'll prove my point. Right? February. That came out in February, folks. And it went by. Most of y'all patched. Some of you patched. Some of you didn't. Then March rolled around. And then we had Petya, right? And then all of a sudden, everyone's running around screaming and yelling and whatever the case may be. Look, when I'm on an engagement, I'm not worried about necessarily your vulnerabilities. I don't go that way. The vulnerabilities, me attacking a vulnerability is actually my last attempt. That's not where I start. So if you look at a lot of the defenses that I see every day, we look at antivirus. And we all know antivirus is super difficult to bypass. Right? And then everyone's got patch management nailed down, no problems there. So that's part of their thing. And then IPS. Right? So intrusion protection systems that try and detect if I'm doing network script, whatever the case may be. And then every system I go to has a fucking thin client. Or 7. I kid you not, I was on an engagement and they had like just about every possible thin client that they could have on there. So I just turned them all off for them. Made their systems run better. This is not to say that they're bad. Okay? I'm not saying those controls are bad. That's not where the focus needs to be. Your focus needs to be on an actual threat, not any possible threat that you have. This actually happened. They confiscated Woody's little toy gun at TSA. I know, poor little Woody. So, when I go into places, I want to look at, do you have the ability to detect me? Because when you look at defense, this is the order in which your defense should be built. The primary thing of detection, deflection, and deterrence. Deflecting is like antivirus, all that other stuff. Deterrence is like good policies, strong passwords, those type of things. So when you think about defense, it needs to be amongst those 3 systems. So, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So I was on an engagement, and we're, doing a pen test, whatever the case may be. This guy was super smug. There was no way I was getting in. Fully patched, antivirus, Cylance, Carbon Black, all of this other stuff out there. And I'm not knocking any products right now, okay? But I'm just saying, they had it all on there, whatever the case may be. No problems whatsoever. Cool. So they put me on, dropped me into a VLAN, no network traffic whatsoever. By the way, that sucks because that's not real. But they dropped me into this network segment, no user traffic whatsoever. Good luck, he says. Okay, cool. So I go out there and I, start looking around. Well, I see they've got some open open file shares. Sure, read only, no problem. Go on in there, take a look. There's a SFTP script that has the saved credentials in there. Cool. So I log into the SFTP server. It just so happens it's a Windows box, and the SFTP server is running as the normal Windows account. So I just start browsing around and looking around and find a connection string to a database server. Clear text passwords. So I log into the database server, and then I'm looking around in the database server, and then all of a sudden I realize that the RDP is enabled, and not only is the SQL username good for the SQL server, it's also good for logging into the Windows. So I just use RDP, and I log into the Windows. At this point, have I exploited Anything. Have I exploited a vulnerability in the software? Yes or no? No. I've done exactly what the system is designed to do. So I log in, and then once I'm on there, then I start looking to see where that user also has the ability to log into. Well, then I start finding that it can log into like 15 other boxes. Well, there was a developer box that was spun up, and so I got on that one, and all of a sudden I open up the C tools folder, and in there it says copy files to, and it was the dude's name. I'm like, okay. Open it up. It's the dude's credentials. Well, you already pissed me off. All right. So now it's personal. All right. So I log in and gain access, whatever the case may be. And so then I go into the domain controller, and I see that he has permission on one of the groups to access certain resources. So then what I did, decided is I would just go ahead and add him to like 15 other groups just to see if he would notice, because I didn't want to mess with his stuff. So I added him to 15 other groups. But then I also did is I logged into the OWA, and I sent him an email from himself saying, hey, how's it going? So then, come back later, and then I'm like, hey, so I have some information for you. You might want to, get a call together, because I think I've found something that you might want to fix. His response, Ben, you are the 5th pen testing company that we've had. I already know that you're going to find SSL issues. I already know that we've got all of this stuff. Trust me, there's nothing you're going to tell me that's going to surprise me. I'm like, trust me, you probably want to have a call with me. So we get on the call, tell him everything else like that, and I'm like, by the way, did you get an email? He's like, yeah, it was weird. Our spam filter must not have been working. I'm like, no, I sent that to you. He's like, oh. And I'm like, surprise, motherfucker. Right? You see, when I get into an engagement, I'm not spinning up a vulnerability scanner out the door. That's not the way that I roll. And in fact, even when I use Nmap, I do one port at a time. I'm going to show you this. So this is a command that I typically use, and a lot of people don't know a lot about some of these other switches that I've got on here, so I want to show you. So the G88, does anyone know what that does? It changes the source port. Now, does anybody know why I want to change the source port on my connection? Because when you look at the IPS systems, if the source port and the destination port are the same, it's a scanner. Well, so if I scan for port 80, it's going to set the source port to 80. I don't want that. So does anyone know what port 88 is? Kerberos traffic. Is that common on a network? Absolutely. SS. Now, this is where we get to win a bottle of bourbon. I'm sorry? Whoa, I haven't even asked a question. Wow. Freaking alkies? Shit. All right. What is the RFC number for TCP? Yes. You good job. You got it. Come on up, buddy. All right. So your next question. 3-way handshake. Are you smarter than a CISP? I'm not one, so I don't know. But 3-way handshake. The first is? Second is? Synac. A lot of people will go sin. No, that's a sin. Sin, Synac, hack. Okay, that's a 3-way handshake. When you do -SS, it sends a sin. The system sends back a Synac, and I go, boop, not listening anymore. Kind of like when your wife's saying, how was your day? Oh, stop it. You know you are. I'm not saying it's right. Right? And so it shuts it off. And so what happens is it's what's called a half-open connection. This is one of my best evasion techniques right here. I don't do a full connection to it. What about this? No ping. Ping, no. Don't send ICMP. I always assume that the host is up. What about this one? No DNS queries. I don't care what your DNS name is. I got your IP. And then this one, just the port. 445 is SNB. And then I just want to see if it's open. Right? This is the way I do it, and I do one port at a time. Now, I understand I've only got a week, but look, most of y'all have stuff on 15 to 20 specific ports. Now, yes, you probably have security by obscurity, and you've hidden things on other points. Look, I get enough information about y'all's environment with 15 to 20 ports. And then I go from there. Now, eventually, I'll get to the point where I'm doing multiple ports or 1,000 ports or whatever the case may be, but this is where I start. I have yet to come to have someone say, I detected your half-open scan on this port. It's not happening. So far, nobody has detected any of this stuff. And then what I do is, I look at, if I'm internal, if, I've got a tap or I'm there on site, one of the first tools I run to see what the network traffic is Responder. Anyone use Responder? Anyone have Responder used on them? Yeah, I know, it was a bad day, wasn't it? So let me show you. So, and just for those that don't know, so we're going to go into Responder. And what Responder does is, when you do a DNS lookup, right, it starts at the host file, and then it fails to your DNS server, and then it fails over to an NBNNS query, which is NetBIOS name service and link local multicast name resolution. So, and it typically works when you fat finger a domain, right? So what Responder does is any of those mistyped systems, it'll actually respond to that. So it's super simple. I'm actually going to remove responder.db. You guys can read that in the back, right? You good? Yeah, okay, cool. So if we do this, and you just put the interface. Okay, so you can see it spun up all these ports, whatever. So I'm going to come back over here. All right. So if I say net use, and we'll do whack whack, and we'll do I love clowns.local. Does I love clowns.local exist? Give me a domain. I mean, oh, here we go. 10. Damn. All right. Does that exist? Yes or no? No. Exactly right. So if I do this, yes. So the question was, did my customer try Comb? I have not heard of the tool. So no, they didn't. No. That's cool. Yeah, no. So what happened here? Should I get a prompt for my username or password? Okay. So what happens here is once this happens, then we get a capture of a three-way hash, right? So what I can do is I can basically put this into Hashcat and crack it. Now, I'll tell you that the password is just summer 2017. In the interest of time of the talk, I don't want to sit here and show you guys how to crack passwords. That's a just different talk, right? So we know that the password's 2017. So we can use crapmapexec, trusted sec, password is summer 2017, and no one ever uses that password. Localauth, and then we'll put the IP, which was 172.16.152.130. Yay, we got a little green plus sign. This is the happiest day of my life when I see this, right? So, at this point, have I exploited anything? Have I exploited a software vulnerability? Yes or no? No. And those of you who think that Responder is exploiting a vulnerability, you're wrong. That's exactly the way it was designed to work. That's what LLMNR and NBNS are for. That's the way they were designed. Now, you can disable them, yes, but so far I've not exploited anything. Well, most of y'all, especially, even some of you guys externally, you'll have RDP enabled. You know what? I am not afraid as a pen tester to log in via RDP. Not at all. I know you have a lot of people who are like, oh, don't log in, you're going to get detected. Bullshit. So I log in. I've got access to the front-end interface, so I'm RDP'd in. I'm going around. A lot of times I'll see another user that's on there. So I was at this one gig, and I had gotten to the domain admin controller, and I was RDP'd into the domain controller. Well, the dude, he starts getting pissed because he's trying to get me out. So he resets my password, disables my account, and goes from there. Well, he didn't realize I was still logged in. So I just reset my password back and added myself back, and we went back and forth for a few times, and then I just went in and I kicked him off the server. The whole idea is before you do any of that incident response stuff, you might want to make sure the attacker's not already on the server. So I'm in, right? So I'm in, not exploiting anything at this point. Now I'm going to connect to all of the shares, everything that this person has access to. And one of the first things I look for are more passwords. Looking for all of those different things so I can continue to expand and go to different places. But I do want a shell eventually. So this kind of talks, a little bit about how we can actually get a shell and go from there. But that brings me to my next slide. That was us popping a box. By the way, that was a scary movie. Ooh. They asked me if I was there with an adult or not. If you guys are not following Sub-T, you need to right now. If you are in this field and you're not following this guy, I'm sorry, you're missing out. This guy has some amazing stuff. I don't know where he gets it, but literally he breathes MSDN. I mean, lives and breathes it. I mean, he's finding out stuff that goes into that. So he found out a lot of cool stuff with MS Build, ways that you can do some cool stuff. And last year, or a couple of years ago, I had talked to you guys about not PowerShell. So this was basically my tool that I wrote because someone thought that blocking PowerShell.exe was a good control. So I just wrote not PowerShell and still owned them. And then last year I showed you guys invoke memory NPS. So a lot of people didn't really understand or didn't use it or whatever, but this was a way to actually invoke PowerShell and code directly from memory without it touching disk. So I had those, MS Build stuff, the NPS, memory stuff. And then Larry comes along and he's on a gig. So this is one of my coworkers. And so he's like, hey, I'm having this issue. Is there any way we can leverage Casey's stuff with your stuff? I'm like, let me try. And so we come together. We found out an exploit that worked. It worked great. And it bypassed every defensive control they had. We didn't disable anything. And so we created this new tool called NPS payload. And we have been using it for the past year with 0 detections. And that includes all the major people. So you can get this off of TrustedSec's website under NPS payload, but I want to show you how it works. It's really cool because I wrote it. And it has ASCII art, so any tool with ASCII art is good. No, Larry did. I'm not that cool. So NPS payload, if you guys have used Unicorn, it looks very similar to that. There may or may not be a reason for that. But you can do a MSF payload or an HTA payload. So the HTA is a compiled HTML file. And so it works very much the same. You can generate a payload. So we're going to generate a reverse HTTPS payload, which is just number 3. And automatically put your IP address in there, so it makes it easier for you guys to do it. And that's it. So that's payloads generation. It's going to be done. And then basically we give you steps that you can actually deploy this. So you can do one of 2 things. You can actually take the file and drop it to the client, or you can use a remote command or whatever the case may be. But I'll show you a couple different things. So my preferred method of attack is over SMB. Did you guys know that with MS Build you can compile a file from a remote system? Oh, this is fun. So what I do is I set up a share. So if you ever do SMB and you do sharing, Sorry, I'm going to go down to share. By the way, if you ever want to generate a random password, open up Vi and have a Windows user try and escape. So basically, I'm just setting it up, and the biggest thing is guest and read only is okay. So you got to have these two options set, and making sure that you can actually set the share. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart my Samba service. Let me make sure responder's turned off. It is. Good. So services, MBD, start. All right. So what I can do is I can come over to this guy, and I'm going to go to, we'll just do it as an administrator. Can you still read the font back there? Okay. Have you tried, like, getting glasses? Let's do C50. Is that better? So the path is C, Windows, Microsoft.NET, Framework, v40, whatever. Okay? And there's this neat little program in here called MS Build. Well, you can point it to a local file, so you could be like C, temp, whatever, and go from there. But the cool thing about this is I can go like this. This is 131/share. Now, in this directory, you'll see that it generated this MS Build NPS XML file. It also gives you the PS1. It also gives you a Metasploit resource file. So here's the thing. When I copy this over to any share or whatever, I have to assume that eventually that you're going to see it in a log. Well, I don't want to include msbuild_nps in there, so I just do this. I copy it to my share as sccm update. Oh. Copy msbuild XML to var samba share sccm update. Because, I mean, that seems like a legit file, right? So then what I do is I just say sccm update.txt. So I'm pointing to my attacking box, to the share, to that file, and running msbuild. Now, if all works well, we should get a shell, but I can't get a shell without Metasploit. So we have this, you can do msf console-r, msbuild, and point it to that rc file. And basically, it's going to open up Metasploit, put all the settings that you need in there, but there's one setting it doesn't do, and it's this one. Favorite plugin is load sounds. All right, so let's make sure it's good. Okay, make sure we got our job, so we're good. So if all works well,
we've got a shell.
I did that during a CCD scene. It was like, excellent, 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 please stop. And there's our shell. What do you guys think? Pretty cool? So that's cool. Now the thing about this is if you look at it, if we look at the code real quick, and we'll do msbuild, I don't care. So this is my code right here. So this is basically an msbuild project file, and I took Casey's stuff, and instead of doing like the, the simple hello stuff, this is my payload right here. And look at this. Here's not PowerShell right here. So I thought that was cool. But guess what? Lee Holmes did a freaking keynote here last year. And now all y'all are looking at PowerShell and logging and shit. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I created a new version. And I added a straight C# native payload. No PowerShell at all. So I'm going to copy this file again. And if we do, and the cool thing about this one is this C# code, it compiles dynamically in memory. So there's nothing dropping to disk. And this is not available yet, so we have to use it a little bit. Sorry, I'm just showing you. So we go. So then we go var samba share sccm2.txt just to make sure that we're pulling a different file. So I'm going to come back over and kill my session. So I can get my prompt back. And I'm going to do SCCM2. Now this is my C# code. No PowerShell whatsoever. So as long as
Excellent.
there we go. What do you guys think? Pretty cool. And if we look at the var, I'll show you the difference here. Var, Samba, share. And if you look, it's all C# code. There's no PowerShell here whatsoever. None. So this is actually an obfuscated PowerShell command, or C# module here. So you'd have to figure all of that out before you did anything else. It's just base64 encoded. No PowerShell at all. Look, stop and think while I'm showing you this. With that MS build, did I exploit a vulnerability? Yes or no? No. That's not something you patch. And customers get frustrated with me because I go in and they're like, how did you get to DA? I'm like, this is what an attacker will do. So if you want to detect me, stop looking at the initial vector. Who cares how I got in? Because think about it as a physical, right? If I break in, I pretend I'm the new intern or someone's kid who's got lost. I'm breaking in. Who cares how if you hire me, you gave me credentials. You let me on your network. I don't look like a threat. You guys probably be like, oh, that Ben guy's really sharp. Looks kind of young. And then boom, man, I'm all over your network. So when you're thinking about this, you're thinking about detection, I'm running around your entire network and you have no freaking clue because I'm not exploiting a vulnerability. I'm not chainsaw attacking you. You get a lot of these pen tests and they immediately start off with like super noisy and loud and whatever. And I'm not bashing that because there is a need for that. But you're not seeing what a true attack will look like. When I'm on your network, my goal is not to have you even see me. Right? And I'm not talking height-wise not see me. Not see me at all. And so I'm going to run around your entire network and I get shells this way. And it frustrates people. So the big questions here, there's my demo. Adventure time, demo time. So, of the people I mentioned earlier, right? So the big thing is like, yeah, we got the offensive side, but being a defender at heart, I don't want to leave it at that, right? So my entire talk is not just like, this is how I can break in and ha 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 ha. There was also one engagement where, it was really weird. Burp didn't find it and, Nessus didn't find this or whatever. But when you redirect your website and it gives you a 301, you guys don't know that, right? So, request policy. If you do any type of pen testing or whatever, request policy, it's awesome. It breaks websites. I don't recommend it for like normal browsing, unless you just want to piss somebody off. But request policy will stop 301 redirects for you. And then it'll allow you to say allow or not. So I went to this one website and it did a 301 redirect. Well, the 301 redirect was one chunk of HTML code, but apparently somebody had left another chunk of HTML code where it was, such and such's debug login interface access. Pre-filled in login ID with a button that says login. So being the responsible person, I clicked login. Full straight in. Boom. Right there. And so I call them, I'm like, hey, I was able to log into the system. They're like, bullshit, we got single sign-on, we got this, we got some of it. I'm like, is this person logged in? They're like, yes. She hasn't been with us for 10 years. I think she might have put a back door. He's like, oh. So it's just one of those things. Like, you gotta remember that an attacker, when they're going about, they're gonna look at individual little things and they're gonna be methodical. So when I do a report, I'm not gonna put stupid shit in there like SSL cookie not marked secure. Dude, your vuln scan should find that. That's not my goal. My goal is to find, you have a fucking backdoor on 301 redirect. And we use a new poop emoji criticality rating, so 4 poop emojis. You are 1 poop emoji risky. So how were these people caught? Well, Karan Thomas, he was actually caught because he went around a curve a little bit too quickly. And they had ample monitoring in place to realize that train is going a bit too fast. He would have not been caught if he just slowed down a little bit. Does that relate to anything I just said? Slowing down, right? Slow your attacks. What about this? Funny thing is, she wasn't caught. But she did reveal who she was after the fact. She left artifacts of her attack, of what she did, behind in letters. A lot of times attackers, what we'll do is we'll go and we'll like blast things all over the place, and then we'll do this. I was just on an engagement, and I was doing all this stuff, and sticky keys still works, by the way. Sticky keys is an amazing attack. You can do it through the registry with image file, reghack. And so I put this on, whatever, I'm having fun. I call the client. Hey, just want to let you know this is where I am. Did you guys detect this? No. Cool. Move along. 20 minutes later, the system goes dead. The dude's credentials have been reset. And I'm like, you motherfucker. So now you pissed me off. Well, then he's like, hey, you probably want to reset this, whatever the case may be. You know, make sure you move sticky keys. I'm like, dude, you just kicked me out of this box. I can't remove anything. You see, those are the type of artifacts we don't want to leave behind. You think, and here's the other thing too. If you detect an attack, do your normal IR. But if you don't, leave it alone. You're actually devaluing the pen test by interfering with the pen tester. You're wasting your company's money. Because you have no idea how far I can take that attack chain, and while I may only be able to have this one avenue in, you might have 15 more behind that one user account that had his password as summer 2017. Let it happen. Just shh, let it happen. No words. Just let it happen. But we leave artifacts behind. We can't do that. Solomon Pearl, he was actually detected, but nobody said anything. It was by his girlfriend's mother. Can we think of who this might relate to in our environment, where they actually see something but they don't say anything? Users. Right? Is that to say stupid users? Nope. Not at all. Part of the reason our users don't say anything is because they're afraid. We have created an environment where our users are so afraid to talk to us that they don't want to tell us when something goes wrong. So what about Frank? How did he get caught? He got caught because he got overzealous, and he actually had multiple girlfriends that he had, and one other girlfriend recognized him on an engagement. When I do a physical pen test, I try not to lie. Because there's two things that happens when you lie. One, you have to remember your lie. And two, you actually have chemical changes in your body when you're lying. If you go and look at the social engineering village, you'll see that with the lie detector tests that they have over there. I'm not hooking myself to that shit. You know? But you have to try and not lie. So my name is always going to be Ben. And if they say, are you the new whatever, I can just say yes. No big deal, right? But I don't have to worry about some pretext. So Frank's problem is that he had multiple different identities, and they realized that, oh, wait, you're not Ben. You told me your name was George. So I try not to lie, so that way if I see them again, I don't have to worry about what did I tell this guy? I don't remember. So I try not to, I'm a consultant. I'm here to help you guys out. You know, it's basically, what are you here to do? Well, I'm here to break into your data center. Right? It's just that type of thing. So, thinking about this piece, initial vector means shit. I don't care if it's Eternal Blue. I don't care if it's MSO80067. I don't care if your user clicked a link. I don't care if I impersonated one of your users. I don't care if I got a job there and got on. It doesn't matter. I'm there. Anyone ready for the Patch Tuesday that's coming up in October? You guys are already patched ahead of time, ready to go. Anyone? So would everyone agree that there's a 0-day out there that you are vulnerable to right now? Yes? There's stuff that you're vulnerable to right now. You can't patch it. So because you can't patch it, you're vulnerable. So these are some of the common commands that you want to look for. Who am I? Net user. Command /C. Any type of reg commands. MS build. Because no matter how I get on your system, I still have to pivot. I still have to go someplace else. You also want to look for PowerShell. There's a lot of other people here that are looking at PowerShell, they have a lot of different ways for that detection piece. There's also other ways for asset identification. So you can do log adjustments, monitoring. I'm going to burn through some of these slides real quick because I want to talk to one thing. Everyone's quick to go and create this gold image, right? And y'all don't even know half of the % of the assets that you've got on your organization. I actually had someone tell me that we're only ingesting 80% of 75% of our assets. They only know that they have about 75% and they can only see about 80%. So we're like, we really don't know. So the idea here is when you're actually trying to detect me, one of the best things you can do is have a log. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to burn. This was a great one. That was basically when they were, so this was on network segmentation. Like if someone comes up and they're like, well, the reason is you have network segmentation, this is the way I respond. Okay, network segmentation isn't going to happen. Let it go. But this is one thing I want to show you. Elk stacks, logs, LogMD, Michael, he has this great company, does a lot of this stuff. If you're not doing detection of what's going on in your system, there's no way for you can do it. But this is by far the best way that you're going to detect it is with this new UBEA. This is how you detect an attack, is with the user behavior. Because if all of a sudden Ben 10 is 7'2", you know motherfucker's wrong. Right? Because you know my baseline is 5 foot nothing. Right? Alright, so that's my talk. I want to make sure, I ran out of time, whatever the case may be, but I want you guys to understand what I'm trying to teach you. Stop trying to build your defense around disclosures and build it more around discovery, because here's the thing. No matter what happens in October, the fact of the matter is the detections I have right now, I'm going to detect you no matter what, because you still have